Welcome to the Man Cave Podcast with Dan Casper.
It's Outdoor Chats with Mr. Jake Bolks, DNR warden for the great state of Wisconsin. Good morning, Jake. How you doing, bud?
Morning. I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Not bad, man. Not bad. Not as cold as it was a little bit earlier. Still a little chilly this morning. So, but you know.
No, but it's still -1 as I sit here in my truck. So, I mean, I guess that's an improvement from -20, but it's definitely winter in Wisconsin.
Exactly. Hey, speaking of like that, this might be a stupid question to lead off, but when it's temperatures like that, when it's temperatures like that. Do you see a decrease in a lot of people out in the outdoors, like hunting, or they locked up in their shanties and staying warm? I mean, because you guys got to go out there and brave that.
Yeah, it's hit or miss. I think during the week it definitely slows some people down. I think if it's the weekend, it's winter, there's ice, it's -1. There's still going to be people out. I think what I see less of, especially with no snow, is there's just less tip-ups. So then, you just get less people kind of moseying around outside their shacks or tents because they want to stay inside and keep that heat in, understandably. Plus, the holes just freeze up so quick unless you have some sort of special systems.
Gotcha.
Still see plenty of people out. See a lot of people, still out walking their different state properties or county land or just hiking still in the winter, even in this weather. Plenty of fishermen, especially guys that already have shacks out there and such. And then, last weekend it was this cold, and we were still ripping around on our sleds, at wardens on different bigger lakes and different stuff. So we're still out and about, just like everyone else. You just have to put on a couple extra layers of clothes.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned tip-ups. We might as well go there. We had quite a few questions already. So somebody had asked, how many poles / tip-ups can you have in the water at one time? Is it similar to the summer rules?
Yeah, so it's the exact, there's one difference, but yes, it's the same rules in the summer as in the winter in Wisconsin, which is kind of nice. There's states around us that do have a little discrepancy where you can have one in the summer, 2 in the winter, yada, yada, yada. You can buy a third line for an extra price, and which is good, and it's their states. I do like how ours is just you can have 3 baits, hooks, or lures in the summer, and you can have them in the winter. So I probably said this before, but just like as a reminder, the law, everyone says 3 lines. I say 3 lines. The law is technically 3 baits, lures, or hooks. So what that means is if you're jigging and you have like a hook at the bottom of your line, and then 2 feet up you have another hook tied on, technically that's 2 of your hooks right there. So that's like 2 of your 3 hooks or lines. So in the summer, especially when people are like, river fishing or something, they'll tie on a hook at the bottom, a hook 2 feet up, and then another one 2 feet up to hit fish at different water levels. Technically, they're at their 3 with just 1 pole then. And then if they do that 3 times 3 poles, that's 9. So they're grossly overbagged or overlining at that point. So same with ice fishing. You can't have 3 tip-ups out and then go in your shack and jig. That's 4 lining, that's overlining, and it's pretty common, and that's a pretty quick $300 ticket.
Gotcha. So another question we had was, speaking of, maybe staying warm here, can you have a bonfire on the ice?
That is going to be something you have to check out your local ordinances. So the state doesn't really restrict bonfires on ice or frozen water. There's different parts of the state we've kind of talked about. I think we chatted a little bit last week about just like there's different areas of the state, intensive units, extensive, different areas where you have to have permits to burn, and if there's snow on the ground, you're exempt, and different stuff like that. But different municipalities usually have some sort of ordinance about burning on lakes because it can cause an issue with littering and debris and weakening the ice depending on where they're having the fire. Like Lake Altoona, I can tell you, has a sign right at their boat launch at the county park that says no bonfires on the lake.
Okay.
And that's not a state law, but it is a local ordinance, which is still it's enforceable by everyone. So you can't have like bonfires on Lake Altoona. And again, usually that's derived from past issues of people having huge fires or burning a bunch of stuff and then leaving all the remnants on the ice, or having fires too close to boat launches and weakening the ice. So if you see it, it's probably because they ran into an issue in the past with it.
Interesting. And then, can you legally camp overnight in your ice shanty?
Yeah, so there's nothing that restricts you. Again, okay, so nothing from the state that restricts you from, sleeping in your shanty or your, converted pop-up trailer, whatever you have when you're ice fishing. You do have to have it marked with your name or customer ID or different stuff like that, depending if you're there or not there. Whether you're there or not with your shacks, I always tell everyone, just put your name on it, put a sign in the window, something that says whose shack is this. Not only is it good for us or legal, so we know whose it is, but it also can help you in case something happens or it gets broken into, or the ice is melting around it, whatever the case. So always identify your shacks. There's nothing from the state law that says you can't sleep in it, but again, with the local ordinances, there may be a local ordinance in your area, wherever you're fishing or whatever the lake is or the river, that might have different rules on it when it comes to like camping overnight for a certain amount of time, like 7 days, 14 days, something like that. So, you might want to, if you run into a local police officer, or call the PD or check their ordinances to see if they have any restrictions with that. But, if you put a shack out on the lake, you identify it and you sit there and fish, and there's nothing we're going to keep you from doing.
Gotcha. We had this from Jake from State Farm that texted this in. Can you use salted moon eyes for bait on Wisconsin waters? Yeah.
So I'm glad you texted me that one, because that one got me down a little bit of a rabbit hole looking through the DNR website and the regulations and such. So the short answer with can you use salted moon eye, or let's say salted minnows, the short answer is yes, but there's some caveats. The first being that in Wisconsin we have VHS. I can't pronounce it. Viral hemorrhagic, whatever. It's a disease that affects the fish, and it's pretty potent to the fish. It can really get them sick. According to our website, it doesn't have any sort of negative effect on humans, but it can drastically impact the fishery. So because of that, there's a lot of regulations that come with bait and minnows and harvesting them, transporting them, stuff like that. So the first thing to know about using any sort of bait, including like salted fish, is that if you're going to buy it from like a store. So if you can buy it from a store or a bait dealer, you're going to be good to go, because bait dealers have to be licensed. They can only buy what's legal to sell. Well, not necessarily buy what's legal to sell, but they know what they can sell that's legal in Wisconsin and stuff like that. So if you buy it from there, whether you buy minnows alive and then put salt on them, or you buy an already preserved or salted fish as a bait, then you're going to be good to go. There's some states, like when I personally go fishing in northern Minnesota, there's different rules, and on some of the trout lakes, you can only use like dead minnows and stuff like that. So when you buy it, they automatically pour a bunch of salt in your stuff and kill the minnows, and then you go fishing with them. So different states have different rules, just like Wisconsin. But if you're buying it from a bait dealer, you're going to be good to go. Or if you buy minnows and then put salt on them, you're going to be good to go. If you are taking them, buying them, and then you're going to basically keep them overnight, or keep them for a while because you want to use that bait down the road. You want to basically kill it and use it later as like a dead bait. You have to do a sort of preservation method, which there's some videos online and a lot of documents on our DNR website that show you how to preserve bait, including using like salt and borax, or using alcohol and mineral oil. So there are resources on how to use dead bait like smelt or herring or moon eye or minnows for bait. But what I would do is I would probably just reach out to your local fisheries biologist or your local warden to talk about it. It's not super common. There's obviously people that do it, but just as part of like the aquatic invasive species laws and the aquatic, like fish diseases and stuff like that, it's pretty important to make sure you're not just killing fish and moving them around and re-putting them in different water bodies, because you could potentially be contaminating those areas. Similar to like if you copped in all the food at the salad bar and then moved it somewhere else and did this and that, and it's just spreading germs around, and we're trying to reduce that.
Leave it to our good friend Jake from State Farm for throwing a unique question, right? A good question out there.
It's a good question. I mean, there might be some people listening just thinking I'm rambling on, and that's all right because I am. But the important thing to know is, like, if it takes me that long to kind of talk through it and just get a base, knowledge of it, that it is probably, it's a highly regulated thing. So don't just grab a fish from Lake Altoona, kill it, and then use it for bait on the Mississippi River. There's different preservation methods, there's different lure, there's different rules. So if you want to do something like that, reach out to your local fisheries biologist and ask them how they do it, or ask them how they do it. Same with the local warden, because we'll help you through that process so you don't get checked and you're in a world of violations.
Mm-hmm. Last one here for you, Jake, and this was something I'd forgot to bring up a couple weeks ago, but maybe it's a good reminder with everything, because for deer hunting, the CWD, there was a wild deer in Chippewa County that got tested positive. So that means Chippewa County will renew a 3-year baiting and feeding ban already in place. Barron County will renew a 2-year baiting and feeding ban in place, and Dunn County currently already had a 3-year baiting and feeding ban in place already. Just one quick note on it too is there a difference between, like, the Barron has a 2-year and Chippewa has a 3 years? Is it because it was a neighboring county, or were they already in a ban, so it was just a 2-year renewal? Do you know that off the top of your head?
Yeah. Yep. Nope. You're right. It's because it's within 10 miles.
Okay.
So anytime a wild positive CWD result is found, they do like a 10-mile radius around that GPS spot, and whatever it hits is within the infected zone. So it was close enough to Barron and Dunn, where obviously for Chippewa it's an automatic 3 years, and then for the surrounding counties it's 2 years. So Barron would get 2 years. Dunn County, I think they actually had like another CWD positive test like after this Chippewa one.
Okay.
So they restarted their own 3-year clock. Anytime any county is found with it, they just reset the clock. The law that was passed when all this went through was that you have like a 3-year window where if it's not found again, or it's not found, within 10 miles adjacent to the county, then it goes back to being a legal baiting county. So like Clark County is back to legal baiting because the 3-year window went by from the Fairchild deer that was found over 3 years ago. So I can tell you just from seeing the samples that come in and stuff, I would assume similar to like the Sauk County area, the south, where kind of CWD is more present in that Dane, Madison area, Sauk County. Chippewa, Eau Claire, Dunn seem to pull a positive sample every year now, which kind of, for me, looks at it in the sense of unless some different laws change, I don't see baiting coming back to, our immediate area. Because it just keeps resetting that clock, and then, if you don't find one, it seems like the other counties are finding it right on the county line, so it's resetting the clock anyways. So if you hunt around here, you have property around here, whatever your stance is on BD, you're against it, or you don't believe in it, or you're very, open to trying to protect it. Whatever your stance is, doesn't matter. It's going to be in no feeding counties. It's going to be in no baiting counties. So either, if you have land, start doing food plots or start planting apple and pear trees, different stuff like that, to have a legal, more natural food source on your properties.
Mm-hmm. He's Jake Bolks, conservation warden for the great state of Wisconsin. Hey, man, we appreciate you coming on a little bit earlier. I know you had some stuff going on later on.
Yeah,
so,
I appreciate it.
No, big thanks for answering a lot of good questions out there. And, well, stay warm, buddy, and hopefully we'll catch up with you again next week.